That's no moon. It's a space station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Just a few quick reminders before we get started. For one, my new book, Bleed Through Tales from Another Timeline, is out. You can pick up your copy on Amazon. Some great reviews have been coming in, so thank you all for the love and support. Couldn't have done it without you. And there will be physical copies for sale at Rebels of Disclosure, which is right around the corner, 2 weeks away, May 12th through the 15th in Grafton, Illinois. It's our last year in Grafton, so if you haven't been out there yet, grab a ticket, come hang out with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if you can't make it in person, grab a virtual pass. It's a professionally recorded event, and we bring that recording to your doorstep and make it user-friendly. You can, it's very interactive. If you join the Telegram group, you can ask questions to the presenters if you want. It's a great value. It's only $66 this year, and take advantage of it. It's right around the corner, May 12th, and we will see you all there. And really quickly, if you are going to the conference and you're listening to this, the meal plan deadline is May 4th. So if you want a meal plan and you're going to be there and you got a 4-day pass, make sure you grab your ticket by May 4th. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, tonight's guest is Solreta Antaria, and she is an internationally renowned natural born psychic and clairvoyant. She has always been aware of other multidimensional realities. She is an ET UFO experiencer, even capturing some experiences on camera, which we're actually going to go through some of those today. She sent me some videos and pictures, and they're actually pretty impressive. And today, she helps many people connect with their soul mission, working on psychic readings and kinesiology to quantum jump her clients to be a better version of themselves. So, welcome to the show, Sol.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and that beautiful introduction. Nice to be here with you guys.
Yes, it's great to have you here. And I just actually recently had a session with you, and I appreciate you offering that because it's always nice to get a feel for the guest before we actually interview him. So it was I can personally say it was amazing. And, it was I guess a psychic tarot reading is what you did. And
Yeah.
we're going to actually today, at some point, we're going to have her pull out the cards and do some readings on, the current events, not necessarily the surface level stuff, but the higher perspective, right? So we're very excited about that. But how's it going? Maybe we can give you the opportunity to introduce yourself a little more if you'd like and share with us, how you found your way into this.
Yeah. So I guess my journey to this and to like the ET UFO side of things and the I guess the elemental paranormal side of things started really early on. So ET experiencer from a young age, as well as the whole multidimensional facet of it, because I don't really think there's sort of like separate little pockets. It's all kind of part of this multidimensional reality. So I live in Melbourne, Australia. Um, yeah, clairvoyant since birth. So always seeing things, me thinking that that's normal until I get to kindergarten and then find out that, other kids are sort of living a bit of a different reality. You might hear my cat meowing in the background. She's just all of a sudden decided to talk. So yeah, growing up, my guides were very adamant about sort of remaining quiet about certain things. And it wasn't until later in high school I started to talk about seeing colors and auras and, asking my friends, do they see geometries or things like that? Because I was one of those kids that didn't really sleep because there was always so much happening at nighttime. But I think the reason that all of that happened was for me to help bridge the gap in the times that we're in now. So it was like everything kind of put on pause, feeling like I was living in this world alone, waiting for others to, I guess, come into awareness or to wake up. And I'm sure many of your audience at home will have experienced or felt that with the awakening journey. It's like, waiting for your friends and family to wake up or feeling like, am I always going to feel, alone or like everyone's spread out across the world. So yeah, it's so nice now that we have the internet to be able to connect and talk to others that have a similar view on reality.
Yep. The multi-dimensional aspect of reality is what's coming to the forefront. We actually just, we've been talking about that pretty frequently, and my book touches on that. And I know Aaron's second book is going to dive deeply into that. So I think it's just the next step, right? Like we're breaking free from that consensus reality and understanding there's many layers to reality. And what we're seeing happening right now, in my opinion, is like the convergence of these realities or the blending of these timelines, or the veil is thinning. And we have the Lyran energies showing up all the time, right in your lap to help us.
Her name's Lyra too.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
no way.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, as soon as you said the cat was there, I was like, oh, the Lyrans are here.
Yeah, she doesn't always do that, so that's hilarious.
Which is really interesting because for me personally and on my personal journey, the Lyrans have been showing up quite a bit actually. And I just got back from Egypt, and there was a big piece of that puzzle that kind of is, starting to make sense to me. But I don't think it's any coincidence that that just happened. So, I mean, what
She's
do you?
telling me to come here. I don't know if you can hear her saying "Meow, meow."
No,
Whatever she wants. She's telling us to come with her.
right,
Yeah,
right.
that's hilarious.
So,
Yeah.
okay, you've been doing this for quite some time. You've always had this awareness. What was that journey like breaking, like, I guess, were you always like the oddball out in school? I know you kind of mentioned that, but as you got older, like what did that look like? Because a lot of times we like to become an introvert and we separate, or the opposite happens. We try to fit in and we become this cardboard cutout version of ourselves. How did that look for you?
Yeah, I guess, to do with like what my guides would say from that kindergarten age, it's like we learn to kind of pull back or to make sure that we're tailoring ourselves to, I guess, an acceptable part of reality. So when I was younger, I would keep things a little bit hidden. And then, as some of us with ADHD too, you'll just sort of, start to talk about the strange or the weird, or you'll get on like topics, whether it's going down the rabbit hole of aliens or crystals. And so you do become a little bit of that weird kid or the space cadet. But I was always lucky in that I was a chameleon. I could kind of fit in with multiple groups in high school growing up. Had a lot of friends and just, yeah, enjoyed somewhat of a normal life, but always had that spiritual essence, or I would say it's a hunger for more. And I'm sure you guys experience that hunger of like wanting to just find out and drink in all of the information. So getting into college studying natural medicine really connected me more with other people that were on that same journey. So I was able to have those deeper, weird conversations and start talking a bit about ET experiences and implants and other, strange paranormal things like that.
Yeah. So, is that a bird or is that your cat in the shadow behind you?
Oh, there's cockatoos. I don't know if you can see, like, with my camera, you
I'm
might
looking
see
at
this.
the shadow behind you. I think the cat was going after a bird. Anyway, it's just
I think
funny
it
to
was
me.
yeah,
She's
yeah.
she's actually over the other side of the room. We get
Oh,
weird things happen because I live in the hills or, like, at the base of the hills, and growing up in this area as well, you have a lot of elementals and fairies, and I think this is to do with, like, the veil being really thin right now. That's why we have them show up in some of the shows that I do. It wasn't that I intentionally, chose to capture them on camera, even though, like, that would have been cool. Oh, that's one of the cockatoos in the
right,
background. So
Right.
this is
right.
outside. This is nature here.
Wow.
That's amazing.
I think that's what I was seeing a shadow of. Okay, so maybe do you want to go through some of this footage you sent me right now, or do we want to kind of build the audience up to how that started showing up for you?
Yeah, I guess for me, I always saw fairies more as orbs as a child. So as a clairvoyant, usually you'll see them, and over here in Australia, a little bit different to what you guys have in the States. I think it's if we look at each plant having a nature spirit or a diva kind of elemental attached to it, different plants have a different soul essence or a different vibration. So the orbs that I see in the forest around where I live are about maybe baseball size, sometimes a little bit smaller, like tennis ball size, usually blue, green, and red. But when I went to the States, they were bigger. They were like violet and kind of like opalescent white with pink. So traditionally, you sort of see them more show themselves that way. And I remember as a kid just wishing to see a fairy in its actual form, like we see in the movies and fairy tales and things growing up. But it wasn't till I was 21 that I saw an actual fairy, like in her body form. So she was probably about a foot long, just flying past the bedroom window at my parents' house. Long, kind of pointed chin, pointed ears, and her feet were what surprised me the most. in proportion to like how humans are. We know that everything sort of fits a mathematical formula. With the fairies, they have longer feet than they do, I guess, the rest proportionally. So that was a bit of a surprise. And then it was only, I guess, the last couple of years that they started showing up on camera when I was doing shows or doing card readings. And so some of my YouTube audience love to point it out when I'm doing readings. They're like, "So there's a fairy behind you." So yeah, I think that it's more that my energy's tapped into that kind of realm. And so I think, different people are more in vibrational alignment with certain realms. So for me, it's been the UFO side of things, the paranormal. When I was younger, I did do mediumship, but for me, it always drained my energy. I always felt tired talking to people that had crossed over, unless they were sort of more uh, eccentric or a little bit more, energetic type people when they're alive. I found that it brought my energy down. So for me, I think that I'm just naturally harnessing or hooking into things that I'm on a vibrational alignment with. So it always sort of builds and raises energy.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think, yeah, absolutely, because you'll attract that frequency. I mean, just by existing in that frequency, these things would get curious, right? And they might come and check
Yeah.
it out. And then the camera just happens to capture them. So I'm going to share my screen and go through um, some of these things you sent me, and you can just briefly explain them to us if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's share the desktop.
Oh, and it's funny, our mutual friend, John DiMartino, since I started reading for the family many, many years ago, I think like 10 years ago or something,
Mhm.
he actually calls me the fairy queen. He always has. So when things started showing up on camera, he's like, "I told you."
Maybe we can title this episode "The Fairy Queen."
Perfect. Perfect.
um, so what are we looking at here?
Yeah, so that one was a Pleiadian light ship. So just driving through Yosemite, I think it was 2018. And what hit me was not actually seeing the UFO. There was this compelling feeling to take a photo. And it was like everything within my being was like, get your camera out, take a photo. So I took a series of a few photos. And yes, the landscape was beautiful where we were driving. But when I was checking my camera later that night, it blew my mind because the feeling that I had in that area, it just I don't know if it was the nature aspect, but there was just something on a higher level that was guiding me, or I felt connected to that higher energy. So yeah, it was such a surprise to see it show up. I did have someone who was ex UK Air Force actually look at it, and he said that it's not an artifact in the camera, it's not lens flare. He said that the actual triangle has its own light source when he looked at it.
Wow. Yeah, it's
Nice.
very, very interesting. Um, okay, let's move on to the next one. I mean, it looks like it could be like a little cloud wisp, but it has a very large right angle on there. So, uh,
Yeah. And that was taken with a series of a few other ones. So there was a cloud ship cloak, there was another orb one, and that was all within a couple of frames. So this area just felt like there was like I guess, a multidimensional gathering that was happening.
all right, let's go on. Okay, so this one's a little harder to see, and I'll do another slide that zooms in on it. But explain to us what we're looking at, and then I'll go to the next slide.
Yeah, so you can see right in the center of the photo, there's an orb, and just above it, it's a little bit harder to see, but there's a cloaked cloud ship. There might be a closer up photo of that. So I think this was maybe one of the first photos, and then maybe the light ship after. So just, yeah, as I was saying, it's that feeling. And, when you see UFOs, it's hard because a lot of people will want to capture them, but it's actually really about us having that personal connection, that personal contact. So much of, viewing through the camera, we're actually missing so much of the information on why they're showing up, why they're there. So for me, a lot more nowadays, it's more about just, closing my eyes, feeling that connection to them and seeing if there's a message of why they're showing us themselves to us.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. So this next one, it's not zoomed in much. I didn't do a great job. But if you're watching this at home, you can zoom in. There is clearly a orb, like right in the center of the screen here, just above the horizon, above the mountains, and it's pretty large, actually. I would say that we're looking at something that's very large at a great distance, as opposed to just a small orb up close, right?
Yeah. And what's interesting too is over here in Australia, where we have some of the UFO sightings, you'll find that and the same with across the world too, because I've been to a few different countries. What you usually find is sometimes these cloud ships might be cloaked over natural bodies of water. So sometimes it's there's certain minerals and things. We tend to see them over here, like at Uluru, where there's the red dirt. So usually you'll have a high quartz content in the ground. And sometimes it'll be places where there's quartz and gold. The other place that we see them over here is around mineral springs. So I just find it interesting that there's usually a higher, I guess, mineral level in some of the sighting areas too. So I don't know if they were maybe, absorbing or taking something from the land, or if there's perhaps like a base. I haven't actually looked into information around it because I tend to sort of take things and then just like move on to the next thing. I think it's a very ADHD thing.
Right. I mean, I think over here in the States, you can just throw a rock and you're going to land next to a base. I mean, underground base, basically.
It does have that feel, especially in
Right.
certain states.
All right. Let's go on to the next one. There's only like 6 here. Oh, this is cool. It's like this spiral looking. I don't know. You explain this to us.
Yeah, so that one, it looks like a rod. So when we talk about orbs and other things that come through, I tend to look at this in the category of plasma. So when we look at four states of matter, plasma being the fourth state of matter that makes up around, I think it's like 98% of, so, it's not just air here. We have plasma as well that's connected to the quantum. So you have different things that exist and will fly through or are perhaps made of plasma. So I do feel that some of these, or even some of the fairies, have more kind of like a state of plasma to them. So I guess it's just not that physical 3D density like us. But it's like a rod that has a corkscrew kind of spiral around it. And so sometimes you'll just capture them flying past. My gorgeous friend Carla, she makes these beautiful organites. And, it's sometimes they appear when you're talking about high energy things or you're just really in the moment having fun. But I do think that they like crystals and things that are of a higher frequency.
Yeah. And I think it's in some cases, they're even communicating with the crystals themselves.
Yeah. Oh, and I think some people might actually call these ones ribbon orbs.
Ribbon orbs. Okay. Yeah. I've heard
Yeah.
them described as rods, fast movers, stuff like that. But let's go on to this one. I think, oh, this is a video. For some reason, oh, so it's very quick. It's going to be a little like, I guess, a type of rod at the very top left corner of the screen. Let's play this.
Oh, this one might be the plasma worm. Was it
This
the
document,
with the absolute?
Ye
And they also talk about
Okay, let's watch it again. So I don't know why that jumps down like that, but did you see that, Aaron?
Dude, can you play it again?
Yeah, it jumps down, but at the top left, you'll see this little worm.
this document, the
Oh,
absolute,
yeah.
and they also talk
Wow.
about
Yeah, that's super interesting. And Aaron, I know I told you to turn down a little bit, but maybe just turn back up 'cause it's a little quiet.
Okay. I
Sorry.
don't know what happened.
Yeah, that was
Now
my bad.
it's right back to where it was.
Okay, cool. Um, anyway, yeah, so we'll do that one more time, and then we'll let you explain what you think this is.
this document, the absolute, and they also talk about.
So what were we looking at there?
Yeah, so that one looks like a plasma worm. So I've had feathers and things like that just drop out too. So when we look at plasma, if we're looking at it from a like more of a quantum level and looking at quantum field, and we all know that our thoughts create and shape our reality. So what if it's like a two-way communication method? What if other things are existing in that higher state of reality or they're able to manipulate our plasma reality? And that's not something I've really talked about on other shows, but I do feel that there is a twofold communication that we are getting messages to.
Right. That's interesting. Messages from the actual, like, the ribbon itself or the worm itself is what you mean.
Or from that, I guess that other dimensionality. So whether it's just trying to get our attention, and we have that, with spirit and with ghosts and things too, where they're operating on a different plane of existence, but we're still kind of sharing the same space. So I know sometimes when we've had feathers or we've had fairies, it's more that they're trying to get us to pay attention. And when we first started getting more of our attention drawn to the fairies, it was interesting because my guides really led me to that. It was just sitting here one day and they were telling me, just to say out loud, I do believe in fairies, which sounds absolutely crazy. But they're like, just say it, 2, 3 times. And so I said it, didn't really think much of it. And I think it was maybe about 2 days later that the first fairies started to show up on camera, or the first ones that my audience and I really noticed.
Right.
So I do feel we can communicate with these realms.
You know
Oh
what's
yeah.
interesting about that, Aaron? I'm going to ask you a question because whenever I got into this, I was, it was like secret space program, government cover-ups and all, I was into ETs and Bigfoot and paranormal. Never did I think I would be having a serious conversation about fairies or mermaids and stuff like that, or unicorns. Getting into this, was that like, what was that like for you, Aaron, as far as like accepting that as a reality? Was it pretty easy or did it take you a minute to get there?
Um, Maybe a little bit longer for that stuff because that stuff just doesn't get talked about as much also as the ETs and all the other stuff and Sasquatch and everything else. But it's just as real. And I yeah, I started coming across more and more people talking about their experiences with those things. And I'm just like, hey, I don't know. It started out like, hey, with what I know now is real, anything is possible, And then I started becoming friends with more and more people that had their own telling me their personal experiences with fairies and um, mermaids and whatever else like that, and or just interdimensional beings or spirits and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, basically, I started more and more being like, you know what? Clearly, everything you can basically imagine is real and exists somewhere, and it's just a matter of like interacting with it or not, right?
Mhm.
So I like so what you said is that they started coming when you started saying you believed in them over and over, or you started putting that forth. So they're kind of like meeting you halfway, I guess, in a sense. Whereas like if you don't believe in these things, you're probably never going to experience it because that's kind of how reality works, right? It's not we're taught seeing is believing, but it's actually the opposite. It's believing is seeing. The more you believe in something, which
Right,
just means the more you're on that frequency of the thing, the more you're going to interact with it. It's
right.
going to show up in your reality.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's perfect. What you said, it really is believing first and then seeing.
Hmm.
okay, so first of all, explain to us, what you're doing with your hair. No, I'm joking. Uh, okay, so I'm just gonna play this. I don't remember what happens here. I think there's an orb maybe, or is this the fairy? We'll find out.
Of what they call preening if we're in the animal kingdom, like the
Oh,
roselle
I
in the
see.
background. You'll see them preening each other when they're around, or even preening, together, which is cute. The other thing that we have
Okay,
too is
so for those who are watching, focus just to the right of her right shoulder. You'll see what looks like a little fairy come down and then an orb, and it's not in slow motion, so you just have to watch a little closer this time.
sort of what they call preening if we're in the animal kingdom, like the
Right
roselle
there,
in the background. You'll see them preening each other when they're around, or even preening, together, which is cute.
and then
The
there's that
other
orb.
thing that we have too is
What's that?
it's such a quick one. Some of
Yeah,
them I do actually
Yeah.
slow down. Like there was 3 fairies that were outside. That one I've slowed down, but I think that it's like the more that you try and enlarge it, it's hard to retain that same quality because I'm just doing it on an iPhone. I don't have any like fancy things that I'm filming it with. And these are just taken off. I record through StreamYard. So I think it's usually around maybe, it depends, 720 or 1080, depends on what show I'm on.
right. Okay, so then I know this one I believe is the fairy, caught on camera, and it's pretty obvious. This one is in slow motion. It's to the upper left of your screen if you're watching this from home. So we'll go ahead and play it. And okay, you see, it looks like it comes out of your head and it drops down
There it is.
right
Wow.
in front of you and then goes out the bottom of the screen. We'll do that again. So it comes out of your forehead, looks like, and there it is. Obviously, it does look like a little fairy,
It looks
and
exactly like a fairy.
yeah, and it just takes off.
Yeah.
We'll watch it one more time. And so, I mean,
It's exactly like every.
Of what they
I've seen people's pictures and videos of fairies too, and it looks exactly like that as well, from what I've
right,
seen.
right, yeah, like the up close. I've actually believe I've seen fairies twice on two different occasions, and very
Mhm.
much like that. And I did see him also in a dream state one time, and they were like you described at the beginning, Soul, like a foot tall. And I was
Yeah,
actually surprised at how large they were when I saw them in that reality. And it just threw me off because you're always expecting this tiny thing, right? And
I
yeah,
think
it
I
was the
think
same when I saw them, that first one.
yeah. I think I've seen them at a distance at ECETI,
right,
where I saw it showed up like sparkles in the distance in the tree line,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I just got a hit like those are fairies.
I believe that too. Yeah, you'll see them in the tree line and as like little mini orbs almost sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one, I have to be honest, whenever you send it to me on Facebook Messenger, I watch it like 5 times and like I literally don't see what she's showing here. And it wasn't until I put it on my computer and watched it again, I'm like, "Oh, it's clear as day now." So, I'll let you explain to the audience what you think this is. I'll play it and then
Yeah.
you can narrate because I don't think there's any
Oh, sure.
audio here.
Yeah, this was just taken from a show that I was doing, and a friend of mine, Gary King, who has a channel, he actually pointed it out. So he's a photographer and he does spirit photography. And he's like, "So look at like what was in the background when you were
Oh,
talking, just
wow.
standing there watching you." So you can see it. It's like a giant green being that has like a love heart type shape head, and you can see the little eyes. So all he did was pop a filter across it. So sometimes when I'm doing shows, we've captured other things that are standing behind. One of the stranger ones was, uh, I didn't send you a photo actually, but it's like a triangular type shaped face at the bottom, gets wider at the top and has horns. And it was funny because I came across a deck of cards that was a fairy deck and it had the same photo of one of the elemental nature spirits. So, what I'm finding is some of the things that we're seeing in the backgrounds of my videos and photos, we're actually seeing that illustrators like Brian Frau, who does the fairy pics, I think he maybe even did some of the fairies and things from like the labyrinth or dark crystal. But yeah, some of the illustrations that people that are in tune or clairvoyant that they're seeing actually match up with some of the things that are now appearing on camera.
Yeah, and this, I mean, I clearly see if you focus on the darkened area, it's like you said, the love heart shaped head, and the eyes are very wide apart. You can even see a mouth and like almost like a slouched back, you know?
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I don't know, what
Yeah,
are
you
your
can see
thoughts?
the shoulder and this is literally just here. That's that same tree. I think the cockatoos have pulled off maybe a few more branches and things, since then.
What do you think that is, Aaron?
It definitely looks like a being for sure. 100%.
Yeah, those eyes are pretty prominent. That's what I think is most interesting about that. Okay,
Yeah,
so I think
and we
that
just
was
nicknamed him the Green Giant.
perfect.
Nice.
Yeah, but sometimes you will get a sense of something watching, and I think it's that they have intrigue and interest in these types of shows that we're doing. So I think they're really excited that humanity's awakening to the level. So the message that I've had come through from some of these nature spirits and fairies is that when we had the fall, and so like back in ancient, I guess, medieval times and that we had stories of fairy tales and everything, there was like a giant curtain that came down. So it was like going from where we were kind of involved more in fourth and fifth dimensional stuff. A thick, heavy curtain came down and we got separated from, they call us brothers and sisters, is the way that they've put it to me. And so there's a huge level of excitement to do with our awakening because it's like a reconnection with that brother sisterhood from the elemental realms. And so they do want to work with us. They do want to, I guess, I wouldn't say it's like teach us things, but it's like to reconnect. And they really are about us re-remembering. So we will come to a point with our consciousness where it's almost like there'll be no separation. Or that we will have come to a point in history in the future where we feel like that they've always just been around us, that they're part of our world again. But it's like we're releasing the veil of forgetfulness.
Yeah, I love that. It's like they're excited that we're catching up and
Yeah,
we're finally able
that's
to
it. And
perceive them. Yeah.
yeah, and there was a huge mourning from their side Because imagine you're watching beings that you consider to be like brothers and sisters. And imagine if they all of a sudden start to forget who you are, they can't see you. You're still operating, around them. You're seeing destruction happen with nature. You're seeing, trees and everything being chopped down, disrespect with nature, large cities and things, and, a heap of like pollution pop up. And it's like we got disconnected from the core of who we were as guardians or custodians of the earth. So we were supposed to work in unison with them.
Right. And it
Yeah.
doesn't help that everything, they're trying to change history and rewrite that and obviously erase it in some cases entirely. So the fact that we are coming online and remembering that it is, hopeful actually, which brings me to my next thing I want to get into is let's have some fun with some cards, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'd love to, you do these amazing psychic tarot readings, and I had a personal session, but I would love to, if you can pull some cards just on the bigger picture right now of what's happening. Everybody, there's a lot of confusion on the world stage because we see like an overwhelming amount of chemtrails all of a sudden. They're talking about blocking out the sun, but then simultaneously, a number of us really believe that we're entering into this golden age. So, and there's all these surface level distractions. Maybe you could pull some cards to help like provide some clarity on where we're actually going.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And I think it is really promising that we're seeing, these beings and things come through. I know for me as a kid, seeing things and getting my parents to like run into my bedroom to come and check out what's in my room or, things, because it's positive and negative stuff out there too. But to now be able to capture things like this on camera and to be able to say, hey, I'm not crazy. I'm just sitting here and now it's being picked up on camera. I think a lot of us are really it's hard to put your finger on the feeling and to describe how ecstatic, it can be to all of a sudden have evidence for this. And I think it's the same too as when we look at the vision scale. So, how you've got like UV rays, you've got infrared and, microwave frequency. We're sort of looking at things through like such a limited view or a limited vision. And it's like we're starting to stretch our bandwidth and tune into more. So, yeah, I've got 6 cards. Oh, there's 7 cards here. I'm just going to feel into these before I flip them over. So, 6 cards to me, when Spirit gives me about that number, usually will represent there's quite a story going on to what's happening. So, they've given me a bonus with that too. So, the first thing that they're showing me in relation to your question, I'm seeing what looks to be like a gold luminous type plasma energy dripping down into our reality. And they're showing me like a gap getting wider and wider. They're giving me the word receiving. So it's like we're slowly, and with shows like this that we're doing tonight too, we're opening up our bandwidth in order to receive a lot more. So it's like the more that we can sort of expand or be open to this, the more that we're going to be given is the essence of the image Spirit showing me clairvoyantly. So I'll just tune in and see if there's anything else. Oh, and when I'm reading the cards this way, it's more I'm just tuning into the frequency of, and the cards are like the conduit of that frequency.
Right.
So the other thing that they're showing me with this, there's still like quite a journey to go with this, but if we cannot get distracted and we can keep focused on just opening up to receiving and starting to build, they're showing me it's like a vibrational alignment with those energies. So if we can look more into those etheric planes, they will actually help to guide us through. They're showing me, I guess I would call it like a treacherous energy. And they're showing me if we can more navigate through with the etheric energy, we can almost sort of step over. They're showing me something quite grim, which looks like, it almost looks like a war landscape with bodies and, things like that. I won't get into the graphic style of it, but they're saying if we can connect to more the ethereal plane and nature, they will guide us through this dark time, I guess, where we're going to become less or come out unscathed. So I'll flip these cards over. Okay, this is really interesting. So we have this energy of operating from that higher frequency, as I was saying, and from the fairy perspective too, and with all of the other, I guess, interdimensionals that are helping awaken us on this journey, which includes like Sasquatch, Bigfoot. We have interactions over here too, and some of the higher beings that would love us unconditionally, because you don't want to work with any of those lower frequencies. But the Seven of Wands, it really represents where they've had to sort of give a bit more of a fight energy in order to come through, or in order to, they're showing me things like distraction. So, with our phones and everything like that, they're having to turn up how they're coming through, or they're having to like modify their plan. So it's like if they can come through and show themselves on our screen, we're more likely to see and accept it. So they've kind of changed their way they're doing things. We then have a Three of Cups and a Nine of Cups. So this is, even though it says the card of abundance with the Three of Cups, this is more about connecting our hearts with our minds. So it's not just that we need to expand from like a mind field side of things. We actually need to open the bandwidth of our heart to start to want to put that intention out to connect. So I guess with me saying the statement, I do believe in fairies, that's like that opening up of that heart frequency. And with the Nine of Cups, this is Jupiter and Piscean energy. So it's more connecting from the top down, as we were saying before I flipped the cards over, connecting into that ethereal energy, that ethereal plane. And we then see the Princess of Cups. So with her, we see these tiny little crystals just in the background above her crown chakra with the swan, which is a creature that's not even supposed to be in our realm, it's supposed to be more in the spiritual realms. And we see the wisdom of the turtle in the shell. And then we see how she's tuned to bring that frequency through here. So this is someone who is like a shaman energy, who holds a foot in each world. And this is all about us individually tapping into that. So it's not just about like one person, showing fairies like we're showing on the videos and things today. This is about all of us becoming conduits for the divine or for the ethereal. And I always say, use discernment, check in, make sure that they have your best and highest good at heart, or that they love you unconditionally. And that's what we also get from this. So they give us the card of love. This is a brother-sisterhood connection as well. With this, sometimes this card will mean, romance and things, but this also represents having a contract. And what we're seeing is the dying out of the old world. So we're seeing the Seven of Discs. This is Saturn and Taurus with the Death card as well. So it's a controlled narrative that's actually dying out. So if we can focus more on this ethereal nature, these beautiful frequencies and energies that are coming through, that's actually going to help us to, I guess, end this old saga. And it's like where we put our attention is where the energy goes. So this is actually calling for a lot of attention at the moment. So if we can focus more on these things instead, it definitely is more of a positive outcome.
So, was that the last card there?
Yeah, sorry,
Oh,
I'm having I'm just gonna grab a drink.
yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
having
Yeah, go for it.
chiropractic nose adjustments to fix my broken nose.
Wow,
So yeah, so I'm a bit nasally at the moment.
no worries.
It's quite a full procedure.
So maybe we could, if you're done with that spread, we can look into what this looks like as far as is there a bifurcation where there's this transhumanist dystopian timeline and then this golden age timeline, or do we have to, like you said, step over that darker lower timeline, like go through it and then come out the other side, or is it just gonna split? Maybe we can.
Yeah. Let's have a look into the cards around that. The vision that they were showing me, it was super interesting. It was like the blood and the gore of everything on that physical, they kept showing it as a lower dimensional plane. So it literally could look like hell on earth. But then they were showing, it was almost like feet not touching the ground. If we're more connected to the ethereal nature, whether it's that we'll receive guidance and we'll be, guided through a path where we don't see that kind of thing. But I'll look deeper into the cards and see if they can get a little bit more specific with that.
Yeah, thank you. And Aaron, while she's doing that, think of a question you'd like to ask next.
Okay.
Okay, these ones I'm just going to flip straight over and see what we've got. So we've got the High Priestess. So as we were saying too about, tuning into that higher potential, that higher frequency, we then have the Two of Cups again. So this is that energy of wanting to connect with that ethereal realm and with those higher frequencies. Again, they're talking about sort of a brother sisterhood. What's fascinating is we have the Emperor. So we've got two high frequencies in partnership or in unison. So where we might feel alone, or we might feel disconnected, or we might feel, ultra stuck in this 3D dimension, they're really trying to keep us in a place of not having fear, not getting pulled into that frequency, that lower essence, which is interesting. I'm just flipping the other cards. We've got the Tower card and Nine of Swords. So they're trying to distract us into a tower moment. They're trying to disconnect us from the truth of how powerful we actually are and how we do have, I guess, that connection to the divine, and we can actually create our own reality. So a Nine of Swords, it's a real Mercury type energy, and Mercury ruling the mind. So what we have around this is the Empress card. So it's more for us to tap into our sovereignty. It's more for us to tap actually physically within the body and work with the nervous system. So the Empress being the queen of all queens, she really is about tapping more into fertility, tapping into womb space. And we know that womb space is a portal for creation. So this is really to not get distracted by a tower moment. What's interesting is each of the tarot cards, especially the main ones, will have different Hebrew glyphs or letters that are associated with it. With the tower, it actually has a little glyph associated with it called per. And in Hebrew, that translates to our words actually being as precious as gold. So what we speak, we create. So it does look like that the darker narrative is trying to get us to focus more on this 3D physical reality, or more on like a lot of the war propaganda type stuff and a lot of the, oh my gosh, we're just physical beings. And so we need to be in fear and survival. And I'm not saying, not to prepare for that, because myself, I'm a bit of a prepper as well. It's always good just in case, because what if you do lose power for a couple of days, or, or the shops are closed, things like that. But I do see that more they're trying to keep us out of fear and keep us in this very, very high level frequency. And I do feel, again, as we said, it is about creating our reality that we want.
Right. Yeah, so I feel like that's more important now than ever to understand, like, and apply it. Like, we can have these conversations, but to apply it, and what does that look like? Like, not doom scrolling and not, like, getting triggered, like, having these knee-jerk reactions to these headlines, these hyper sensationalized headlines that are quite literally timeline trigger events, what Laura Eisenhower calls them. It's they want us to assist in that lower timeline. So it's,
Mhm.
something I talk about in my book is about choosing the higher timeline every day. Like, all the decisions you make throughout your day, it will literally manifest into the reality that you see. So I think it's just absolutely, I love that reading.
Oh, and what you just said about in your book, that's perfect for what we're going through astrologically at the moment too. So even on like a minute, little smaller level as well, you're getting choices each day. So you'll tend to notice where you're getting more irritated by certain frequencies, certain level of whether it's people or conversation, or just going into certain shops. You'll notice like a different kind of frequency or energy. So that's, sorry guys, hold on one sec.
You're okay. It's okay.
I've literally had my nose pretty much broken back into place the last couple of days. So
Oh, wow.
it's just, yeah.
Wow.
um, Yeah. So I'm just sort of moving through all of that. Um, but yeah, when we look into that, what you were saying, that little bit each day, it's funny because even people that I see that are not necessarily awakened on a spiritual level, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm getting so irritated by like this conversation or this person. So we're all going to get it on whether it's a micro or a macro level.
Right, right, I agree.
Right.
Aaron, did you have anything you wanted to ask the cards?
Yeah. Will there be any kind of open ET contact in the near future?
Cool. Let's have a look into that. I'm just seeing which deck they want me to go to. Okay. We'll go to the Star Tower. And it's so funny. As I start to shuffle, they're already talking about, but you guys are having open ET contact. So
Right.
I,
And
I feel that.
I know I'm like, well, technically it's already happening, but I guess I mean more because, then it's like, well, what's your definition of that? Because
Yeah.
technically it's already happening. People are having individual contact. There's sightings are off the charts.
Yeah.
Contacting in dream time already to millions and millions of people. I guess, I mean, as far as like we'll be more on a more
Grander
3D
scale,
level, living
public.
among them openly and
Yeah.
consciously, where it's like accepted by everyone. Like, yeah, they're here. Whether the
Yeah.
governments or whatever say it or not or whatever, they're gonna be among us to some capacity openly, I guess is what.
Yeah. And spirit, it's interesting. You'll get where they're like us in that they, they have a sense of humor, the high frequency ones as well. And so, like with them saying, that we're already having contact too, it's like, we know on an individual level that us guys are having that contact and things. But I guess it's not looking for that parental body or the government to disclose it. But I'll flip the cards and we'll see what we've got. So the funny thing is we've got a King of Wands being the first one, which is exactly what we were talking about. So this is about us individually having contact. It's not having that medium come in the middle to say, okay, yeah, what you're seeing is, yep, that's an alien. That's a UFO. And I did actually, years and years ago, I actually did an illustration of a vision that was shown to me clairvoyantly by ETs. And I drew a picture of a portal and there was children sitting and the children were actually learning directly from these higher dimensional ETs. So I do feel we will actually get to the point of where it's more that brother sisterhood again. But the other cards that we've got, so I guess that's a yes, like in relation to what I was just saying. But yeah, we've got Knight of Cups, Queen of Pentacles. So it is also first about opening up to also the earth reality and the elementals and things as well. So not just like for the ET side, but it's like just about broadening bit by bit. And I do feel there is sort of like a softer or less overwhelming or scary aspect to some of the fairy stuff that we're talking about tonight. It is maybe like a little bit lighter for people to get into. We do have the Justice card, which is also known as a period of adjustment. And then we have this higher sword come in. So what we're seeing from these cards in particular is it looks like we're going to go through some kind of evolution or some kind of frequency shift where we're going to come into a higher state of reality. There is a period of adjustment though. So I'm not sure how long that is, apart from the showing me 3-4. And I was asking, I'm like, is this months or years? It does feel like years. So if we're looking at 3 to 4 years from now, what are we? 2025. So this could be 6, 7, it could be like between 2027, 2028 is what they're sort of showing in terms of how long it will take us to open up to this bandwidth. But we're going to start receiving direct communication. And Knight of Swords. What's interesting though is this communication is actually taking us back to remember who we are, which is the Hierophant. We're not separate from God or from the universe or even our higher selves. So if we can start to do the work early, we can kind of negate this adjustment period and we can just kind of quantum jump straight into the end result that we already desire. So thank you for that cool question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's interesting 2027 keeps coming up even in
I
like
was
the
just gonna say that.
mainstream even in the mainstream ufology narrative, they're talking about some sort of contact or something happening in 2027. We've interviewed Charles McNeil a couple times. He's a whistleblower, talks about some documents that he indicated, 2027. So
That year keeps coming up over and over again lately as something big is gonna happen.
yeah, I mean, and
That
that could always change and shift, but I'm definitely not.
Yeah, they would sort of, I guess, a little bit more loose on 2027, 2028, or whether it's the year turning into it. When you guys were just saying that, I just had my 5 of Wands jump out onto the floor.
Ooh.
This is Saturn energy with Leo. So whether we see like because Saturn represents the corporation, the control, more of a governmental type structure side of things. But I also call this too many cooks in the kitchen. So what's interesting is we're going to have to utilize this Leo energy to see through all of the BS. And there might be many different narratives on what's happening when this kind of card pops up. So this is actually really interesting because a 5 is more about sort of being stuck or at a plateau. So if we look at it from if they're trying to put in or insert controlled narratives, it might actually stop us in our evolution. So Leo again is coming back to that core self, coming back to how we were saying like with the Hierophant and with like the King of Wands and that we had.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna throw a curveball at you.
Sure.
I know you don't technically like the surface level distractions, but maybe we can just have some fun with this one. The Pope recently passed away, and it seemed to
Yeah.
be a very ritualistic death. The date was very specific. There was a number of other things, and I just saw an orb fly right by you at that time.
Really? There you go.
Um, so maybe
Cool.
we can look into the significance of his passing. Was this a timeline shift? Was this excuse me, now hang on.
Now it's happening to you.
Right. Was this a timeline shift? Was this planned? Was this what did this mean for the collective with the transition of the Pope?
Yeah, I'm just grabbing some cards. This one's just from the Right Away deck. And let's see. Just going to feel into this a little bit too. This is interesting. The first thing that Spirit's showing me clairvoyantly is a door. And it looks like a very old door. And they're just showing me that I'm seeing something to do with, like, how they're talking about the Pope and what you just asked me, but my attention doesn't feel like it's on that. For some reason, Spirit's showing me him, like, over here. I'm seeing sort of, I guess, that, casket type energy. And then they're pushing the door open and I'm hearing the word narrative. And what I'm being taken through is, I feel like they're showing me, Spirit showing me going through this doorway. What I'm seeing, though, as I go through the doorway is really interesting. It doesn't look like that it's just a physical energy. There's something about a portal, or there's something about, like, accessing information through a portal. It's more kind of like that is marking a point in history or marking a point in something of the timeline, but it's distraction. There's something much greater that's actually happening to do with this portal. They're giving me the word vault as well. So whether there was some kind of other meaning behind some of the ritual to the energy actually opening some kind of a vault. I'll flip the cards over. I'm a little bit wary going too deep into that Vatican type energy. But what I keep seeing, though, is it doesn't look like just a physical thing. It's like a multidimensional storage hard drive or a library of information that's now they're accessing it for some other reason. And I feel like there's going to be other rituals and things that take place. But I'll flick these cards. So interesting. We have an adjustment with the spiritual world. So there is like a passing of gods, or there is sort of like, okay, you've run your course to this amount of time, and now we're stepping into a different program, or we're stepping into, and it's interesting. You see this. There's other people that talk about this too, to do with whether it's government or whether you have a period of time that's run by dark history, and then you step into what tends to be like a lighter side of history, then you have your dark cycle again. So I do feel this is more about the dark cycle having a bit of a finish, even though we still see a lot of drama and things. They're still trying to call our attention there. But we have the Justice card, which, remember we said before, that's also known as adjustment. So it is Libra energy. It's about maintaining a balance. So there's a reharmonizing or a rebalance that's also taking place. We see the Ten of Wands, which is again Saturn energy. And we see that this represents an ending of an era. We then have a King of Wands with a Seven of Disc. So with this King of Wands, he is more of a true spiritual leader, or more someone who um, a female energy would be passive, whereas a spiritual king, he's more kind of like active, or more like a front person. So we might actually get someone come in that has like a different energy. It might be hard at first to open up or trust, or to be able to put our finger on it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they will be like in the front public eye either. So I guess we'll have to look into that a little bit more in future. But we have a Knight of Wands, a Knight of Disc. So this is still, in terms of like timing wise, it's still quite a distance away. It's not like an overnight change where we see everything spontaneously or instantaneously change. Let me just get some little clarifiers around this. But a seven is more to do with the work that we've put in, but we're seeing just a little bit come from it. So I've got a 10 of Cups, a 5 of Swords, and an Emperor card. And we've got the 3 of Swords. There's going to be more come out to do with the whole I'm careful of the words that I choose because I know we're on YouTube. There's going to be more come out information wise to do with the church and like connection with children and things of that sort of nature. And to do with, I guess, people are going to be more wary in just handing over their children or putting children in uh, trust with religious figures, is what we're seeing. But we do have the Emperor energy with this as well. So I do feel they're giving me the word sovereignty when we look into this, and we've got a Three of Swords. So there's someone who, I guess, in terms of like a political side of things, or someone who is an authority or that has a bigger reach, might be the person that comes through to actually tell us a little bit more about what was actually happening and what was happening, I guess, behind closed doors. But yeah, that portal thing's intriguing me because that's not something that that I've looked into before.
Yeah, thank you for that fascinating.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, that was absolutely resonated very much so. I agree with that. And the man, what was I gonna say? Oh, Aaron, remember how I jokingly said, it'd be funny if Trump became the Pope then when we did our last live? Did you see that
And then he said it right after.
he
Yeah.
literally said, like,
Yeah.
somebody asked him a question. He's like, maybe I'll do it. He goes, do like you would be Pope? He said that would be my number one choice, actually.
Yeah.
And
He goes,
like,
I would be my number one choice for Pope.
That's hilarious because I often see him as the emperor when I'm asking questions around him. So that's funny.
Really, really,
Yeah.
yeah. So
So it might be he's bringing more disclosure around some of the atrocities and that have happened.
so you have asked
Yeah.
questions about Trump before in the cards?
Yeah, yeah.
What I mean, you don't have to do it now, but what kind of stuff has come through?
Yeah, I guess it was more sort of looking back a couple of years ago around, who he was as a person. And it's interesting because it's more on a personal level, like when I've had clients that are just intrigued or, big fans and things like that. And it's interesting because he just continually shows up as the emperor energy and sometimes King of Cups too. So someone who actually cares, who has, their heart behind what it is they're trying to do.
Right. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we
Yeah.
felt, but it's such a controversial thing right now. Everybody gets triggered about it. So,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I was just wondering, what it showed.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's interesting. And even years ago, I forgot what show it was I was on. I even talked about a dream that I had with Putin in it, and I didn't get the same sort of figure that I guess I don't watch the news, but the spin that they give. I saw him riding a horse in the dream, and it was interesting. There's a bit of a wink that happened. There's a bit of a ladies' man was what was happening in the dream, but there was just this kind of like a light liberation type energy.
Right. Interesting. And which is we kind of, we gathered as much just by you can basically just, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. We understand that they spin the narrative and make people appear as bad guys that are actually,
Yeah.
fighting.
All you got to do is look at whoever they demonize the most and go the hardest after it is. You just flip that 180 degrees, and like that's that person or that thing is a massive threat to the evil control system, which they are a part of,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
You're like, oh,
Yeah,
okay,
it
so
would be
Putin's
interesting
clearly
to
on the
speak
line.
Russian and to see exactly what's being said.
Right.
Right. So is there any other questions you have for the cards, Aaron, before we move on?
Me? No.
Yeah. I mean, if you have any other
Oh,
things
no, not that I can think of.
is there anything that you, Soul, would like to pull cards on, maybe that you think might be interesting before we wrap this up?
Um, we could always do cards on you guys on your show if you want, and just to do with if there's anything in terms of like narrative wise. That's just the first thing Spirit's showing me, but I'm totally open if there's anything else you want to ask.
Yeah, you mean of us individually or Journey to Truth as a collective?
Or journey to truth as a collective and like why you guys are doing what you're doing
Yeah,
and looking at it from. Do you want to do that?
yeah, that'd be fun.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm just shuffling. So the first thing that Spirit's taking me to around the question on you guys as Journey to Truth and what it is that your mission is here in terms of like the awakening with humanity. the funny thing is, it takes me back to before you guys were even on Earth. So the vision that I'm seeing clairvoyantly, it's like a preordained or destiny date to come down to Earth. And it's interesting. They're showing me like the element of you two meeting together. And it's like, I'm seeing sort of like your spiritual teams behind you. And it's like, there's like a kind of like a cheeky mischief in that they know like everything that's going to unfold, but it's like when they're watching it after they know that it's already happening, it's like watching a movie that you've watched 100 times, and it's like you start to smile when you know that like your characters, whether it's about to fall in love or they're about to have something that looks really hard and they have like the breakthrough. So I'll flip these cards over, but yeah, I do feel there's that element of you guys tapping more into your guides and into those spiritual beings that are helping to navigate. Because I went to say the word drive, they're like, no, it's navigate. It's like you guys are behind the wheel, you're driving, but there is a navigation. So I guess it's time to tune into that spiritual GPS. But yeah, we're seeing Eight of Cups. So there was a lot of hardship and things that we see, or a lot of emotionally feeling disconnected or separate from your tribe, or feeling like an Eight of Cups represents where we know that there's something more to life. We know that there's that golden star, but it's to get that breakthrough, swim up through the ocean of the cups that are weighing us down. And 10 of Cups, it's about you guys also connecting soul family. So you guys are this beautiful point for people to, whether it's to come to your events and come to your conferences and things, and to meet other people that they know from other lifetimes. So this is also a card of wishes fulfilled. So you are actually both completing your mission and doing exactly what you're doing. There is a little bit more movement with an Eight of disc. This is Virgo and Sun energy. So it is calling on you guys to step more into a Virgo energy is more where we overanalyze, we overthink, or we sort of sit and go, could I have done that differently? So with this and the Sun energy coming in, it's really exposing all of the seeds and everything that you guys have planted and moving you further forward. And I do feel this is about you guys stepping into your leadership as well, that there's another part that's going to come in that will require a lot more of the two of you. So I'm sort of seeing it's like being in the comfort zone. And then all of a sudden it's time to step up on a greater level and to have like a much, they're showing me, they're giving me the word bandwidth. And this is very much about like starting to get comfortable receiving a much wider audience too. Because I feel like it's sort of going from, like a decent, good amount of people, but all of a sudden it's like, shit, we're in this place of how do we accommodate for like 5 or 10 times the amount of people or 100 times the amount of people? So what Spirit's saying is meditating and grounding that in for the two of you guys. So we know that this is like part of, I guess, like your mission, part of your prophecy and that to bring people together. So yeah, really, really interesting looking into that. Four of Swords is also a journey of truth. So similar to Journey of Truth, but it's this meeting in the middle, this point in destiny. It's also a card of meditation. It's a card of connecting your heart into the higher realms to receive information and truth. So you guys are going to receive a lot more, I guess, in regards to future, but a lot of this comes from planting that seed that we talked about with the Eight of Disc. So I would say you guys you've planted the seed. It's now just getting comfortable with receiving a lot more.
Well, you ready, Aaron?
Wow. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Right. It's really interesting. Thank you for that beautiful reading, because
Yes,
Aaron and I have actually been having this conversation. Things are happening in a way like abundance wise to where like we could never have planned it to happen this way, but we're realizing like we're finally getting the recognition. Maybe recognition isn't the word, but like we're being rewarded for all the hard work we put in the early days where it just didn't seem like much was happening, and then all of a sudden things are just very are looking up.
And a lot of censorship and accounts getting deleted, and our YouTube got deleted a couple years ago or a year and a half ago.
Right.
And it felt like every time it was like this big setback that we had to like rebuild, not rebuild completely, but like, it felt like an uphill battle for a long time. Even though it also felt like there was a certain point where it really started taking off, but it was also like an uphill battle. And then now it's starting to, like Tyler said, in recent days, it's like, wow, things are like starting to really come to fruition and pay off here. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
The other vision I have to share with you guys too, it's so interesting. Spirit keeps showing me it's like taking a huge breath. It's like Spirit's going, "Are you ready? Are you ready? All right, take the breath." And then I'm seeing it holding nose, almost like about to pin drop into water. But it's like, how can you prepare yourself for something that could be like a switch that just flips within a moment's notice? So they're trying to prepare for something that could be like a changing of tracks really swiftly. So whether this is like, when disclosure happens or something huge and significant, and people are like, who do we turn to for this information? Who do we turn to I do feel that it is connected to do with that, but they can't stress enough this important factor of how can you prepare for something that's like all of a sudden, quick, hold your breath, and you're like in the deep end. And I think that's what that water metaphor, it's like learning how to breathe in the deep end, learning how to regulate and get your nervous system feeling attuned and where it's feeling normal and natural to hold a large volume of I guess, or a large audience, what that feels like to you guys. And I feel like that will bring it through even faster.
very interesting. Yeah.
amazing.
I mean, I feel like even collectively, we're at like this cusp, right? We're at the precipice of something. And even people around me, like we feel like something is going to happen, but it's like we're not quite there yet. So I don't know what this breakthrough looks like. And
Yeah.
it could just be as something simple as one of our episodes going viral or whatever the case may be, right? And I don't even know if you can prepare for something like that, but I mean, it would be really interesting to see how that seed germinates, right?
Are you okay if I pick Spirit's guiding me to pick 3 cards around this to see if we can have a look
Sure.
more into if there's any kind of like marker for around this? So we've got a Knight of Cups, the Emperor, and 2 of Coins. So a Knight of Cups is perhaps something, a proposal coming towards you, something that you maybe feel like akin to on a heart level. It might be something that's been like a wish of the two of you together. So whether this is getting picked up by a bigger network, we then have the Emperor, and we have a choice that maybe that you guys need to make. So with this Emperor energy, we were saying before about you guys getting comfortable, like being in, a bigger place or bigger spot. So practice like both of you being this Emperor energy and having like that commitment and confidence, because like an Emperor, it's about hearing people's requests and things, but at the same time, it's your choice and how this flavor rolls out and how, this kingdom is sort of operating. So this is very much about you guys being in your authenticity. What's cool is the 2 of disc, it's Jupiter and Capricorn energy. So it's not about you guys having to please other people. With Capricorn energy, it's more kind of Capricorns. We see the goats like climb to the top of the cliff and they're doing what everyone else is like, that's not possible. Like, how can you do that? That's not going to happen. A goat just keeps climbing and you see their little hooves like balanced on the most precarious spots. And Jupiter is all about growth and expansion. So this is about you guys not looking back, not looking at what anyone else is saying to you. It's about your vision. It's about perhaps knowing.
Did you
Did
see
you see
that?
something that
Yeah, I've seen like 4 orbs now. Yeah, that was a big one though.
it's funny. I it's like when I tune into things that have like a good potential, spirit gets like really excited. And that's when we tend to see a little bit. But yeah, 2 of Coins, this is a portal. And with this, it's like a portal that's open. And my message around that is always like run and take it. So when you guys get that opportunity, you got to execute it. But I do feel it also is about you building the vision in that etheric or like at night, holding that vision, holding that image of you guys speaking on a wide scale. But yeah, I'm just really excited for you. And I think that's why we're getting things show up too.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that. I
Yeah,
mean,
thank you so much.
it's very timely for me because I struggle a lot. I'm just gonna be honest. Like sometimes I wonder, like, what are we like? What is this really? What we're doing? Like, where's this going? Sometimes it gets stale. Sometimes even because we've been doing this for 6 years, and it's like, I just wonder. I overthink things, and to hear like these affirmations, like just to or confirmations, I guess you could say, just that we're on the right path and like this is going to keep going somewhere and that we're not wasting our time, which I don't think that we are, but I get in my head a lot. So I really appreciate that. And it keeps me motivated.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of beautiful energy behind it. And I think, when we get the things show up in the plasma state, or we get the fairies and orbs and that too, there's energy behind it, not just in a physical. As we said before, like when we started looking into the question for you guys, this is, something that was predestined before you came into the earth realm. And so now we're getting, I guess, the semi-physical, the etheric show up in support of that. So think of them kind of as your cheerleaders that are, from the sidelines. They're not physically doing it, but they're there supporting and maybe narrating or navigating. They're just not in the driver's seat. You guys
Mhm.
are.
Well, thank you.
Thank
That,
you.
that was a beautiful message. And thank you for everything today. This has been absolutely fantastic. And please let our audience know about your website and what you offer, what kind of readings you do and stuff. And then we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me on. I've just had so much fun with you guys. And it's so playful to talk about these sorts of topics. And I think that we all need to remember to tap back into that inner child and to still have fun and play. We don't need to be serious. And this is when this stuff shows up, whether it's UFOs or fairies, Sasquatch, things of this sort of nature. It's all to do with our heart and our pure intentions. But you guys can find me over at solreta.com. So it's SOLRETA. And my most popular readings are psychic tarot. So I look into anything from a 3D physical question, career, relationships, things of that sort of nature, all the way up into like the spiritual realms, or talking about people's ET contact experiences and wanting to glean more information around that. I also do galactic readings. They're probably my two most popular. So looking into your star heritage, and both those readings include aura drawing, where I talk about the energy around you in the moment that I see clairvoyantly. We talk about what spirits' take on that is, and we also look into the cards. But yeah, thank you guys. I so appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And did you have any other, like a YouTube channel or anything else you want to let people know about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just under my name, Solreta Antaria. Oh, and I've got potions that I developed over the last couple of years. So I've got a box of them here. So I also have my website, Soul Alchemy Potions, which is SOUL. And this one is called I Am That Witch. And they're all built around alchemy. It's all beautiful natural ingredients, and they've got affirmations that go with each one. So I've built a little bit of a manifestation community around that too. So you'll find more information on my YouTube channel.
Yeah. And we'll have all those links below in the description as well. So,
Thank you.
Aaron, did you have any last words before we wrap this up?
No, this was incredible. Thank you so much for coming on. It was beautiful information and amazing insights. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so excited to see what you guys do in future, especially after looking into that reading. There's excitement from like multiple realms around what you're both creating. And I don't want you guys to give up, because I know down here in the 3D physical, time feels like it just takes forever. And that's what we saw in the card. I think when we looked into the Vatican one, it feels like a really long time in human length. I know we're finished, but do you want me just to pick a card to see if there's a timeline around like what we were seeing come up?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Absolutely.
Bring it on. Bonus time.
Cool. We've got the star card. So the star card represents hope, but it's the ET side of things as well. So with this is more about you guys leaning into that ET aspect or the multidimensional aspect of you. It's not that it's a particular, 4 months or 3 years or something of that sort of nature, but it's when you both realize like exactly who you are, and you really sort of see like why you're here. So I would say just keep, filling into like what's for you, what you resonate with, and just it's also about eliminating like what you don't resonate with too, just as much as it is picking what you do. But yeah, thank you guys. It was so lovely.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you guys all for tuning in. We love you. We can't do this without you. Join us at the conference right around the corner, May 12th, journeytotruth.online. You can buy tickets. And if you can't make it in person, grab a virtual pass and join us virtually. We'd love to see you there. And I think that's it. Have a great evening. We love you, and good night. Hello, and welcome to Conference Phone. If you know the name of the conference you'd like to attend, press 1.
Come on.
Using your touch-tone keypad, please enter the first 3 letters of the conference title now. You've selected Secret Space Conference? If that is correct, press 1.
What?
You've selected full disclosure now. If this is correct, press 1. Why don't you just tell me the name of the conference you'd like to attend? Rebels of Disclosure? To find the venue nearest you, please enter your 5-digit zip code now. Why don't you just tell me where you want to attend the conference? Pierre Marquette Lodge and Conference Center? Rebels of Disclosure is playing at the Pierre Marquette Lodge and Conference Center in Grafton, Illinois, May 12th through 15th, 2025.
Yeah, now I got you.
If you would like to purchase tickets, please visit journeytotruth.online now.